Hi everyone, so sorry about the technical difficulties today, completely out of my control, and thank you for bearing with me. A couple of people asked me if I'd go through the questions on page 44 and also the second question on page 47, so I'll run through that with you now. Question 1 here, and I hope you guys did all the answers. If you didn't, obviously just press pause and give yourself a chance to go through it. In terms of what the equilibrium price and quantity traded is, well, you're just looking at your initial demand and supply curve and looking for where demand and supply are equal, and you should have found it here at a price of £5 with 12,000 demanded. Okay, so in terms of the answer to question 1, that's what it was, £5 and 12,000 units demanded, or traded I should say. Okay, so there's your answer to question 1. In terms of if the current market was £3, just have a look at what's happening with £3. There's 16,000 units demanded, 8,000 supplied. There would be a case of excess demand. Okay, at that low price, excess demand would exist. Okay, so some of you may have written something but maybe not used that terminology. Make sure you use the correct terminology. What happens at a price of £8? Well, there's 18,000 supplied, there's and only 6,000 demanded, so there's a real surplus there, or as we would be saying, there is excess supply. Okay, excess supply. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Now, just in terms of your test next, your test on Tuesday, the next bits you may in an exam, if you just see what I'm highlighting, that information might not be there. Okay, so it's possible that you might have to calculate that yourself. So, for example, where the question reads, a change in fashion causes the demand for t-shirts to rise by 4,000 at each price. Okay, instead of that being 6, you might have to write 10. Instead of at 7, 8 being demanded, well, it's risen by 4,000, so that would be 12,000 and so on. Okay, so just be conscious of that ahead of next week's test. Now, in terms of if demand had risen, I'm now looking for where the old supply curve, the existing supply curve, and the new demand curve are equal, and you should find it's at a price, let me just change the color here, let's call it purple, say. Okay, at that price, £6, you have demand and supply equal. Okay, so that would be the new equilibrium, and it's £6 with 14,000 traded. Okay, so that's how you look for it. That's the new information. I'll just go back to red so it's easier to see. In terms of the fifth question, if there's new entrants into the market and they're going to supply 8,000 new t-shirts, obviously I'm now with the new demand curve and new supply curve, so I'm looking at these two rows here, new demand, new supply, where are they equal, and it is here at a price of £18. Okay, so £18 and how many, sorry, apologies, £4 and 18,000 traded. Okay, so nice and straightforward and in line with what we've learned already earlier. Okay, so the only other question on this page was the multiple choice, and if you think about what's going to happen, the easiest way to do this is to draw yourself a diagram. Start with 0p, 0q, and then when you have a look at this, I'm just going to write something in red here. You guys should know that when you shift your supply curve left, and I hope everyone draws a demand and supply curve. Okay, draw a demand and supply curve, put in OPOQ, your initial equilibrium, draw a leftward shifting supply curve. So that is going to put upward pressure on price. Okay, so upward pressure. on price. Now, when we talk about the demand and why, apologies, let's go back to the question. The market for potatoes was in equilibrium. Floods hit potato growers, so that's what led to the leftward shift in the supply curve. Also, new research has been published into the health problems associated with eating crisps and chips. Okay, we should know that anyway, really, shouldn't we? And in terms of that, that is going to turn demand curve to shift to the left. Now, when demand shifts to the left, there will be downward pressure on price. Just like we saw with our cycle helmets question, okay, when one curve shifts to put upward pressure and the other puts downward pressure, we cannot tell what the situation is. Okay, it depends on the size of the shifts. Okay, so the answer could only be A. You could have drawn it to show price went up or went down or stayed the same, but it would all be dependent on how big the shifts were that you drew. So it's impossible to tell. So exactly in the line with what we learned on that question on cycle helmets on page 43. Okay, the only other question that you guys wanted me to go through. So in terms of this, this is the question, and so let's have a little read of it together. It says the diagram opposite represents a market for a product before and after the imposition of a specific sales tax. This tax shifts the supply curve from S to S plus T. Okay, so just think about what's happening. The initial equilibrium where supply and demand were equal was at a price of £30 and 15 traded. But that's not what the question's asking me, and I've got to read the question carefully. It says calculate the consumer surplus. Okay, so the difference between what consumers were able and willing to pay and what they did pay after the imposition of the tax. Well, after the imposition of the tax, the new equilibrium is going to be at a price £40. And the amount traded £10. Okay, now it'd be worth you guys having a quick go at this and pressing pause. Okay, but so come back in a moment. Okay, so hopefully you've had a go at that. You press pause and press play now. So the in terms of the triangle that we're trying to look at, it's this little triangle here, isn't it? There's the equilibrium price after the tax, £40. And some consumers are prepared to pay 60. So we're trying to work out height times base, or the height. So it's going to be £60 minus £40 is equal to 20. Okay, multiplied by, so this is height. Let's just write that in so everyone's okay. Height. Okay, is equal to £60 minus 40, which gives us 20. Okay, the base is equal to, well, there's 10 units being traded after the tax. Okay, so height times base divided by 2 is going to be equal to £20 multiplied by 10 units traded is equal to £200 divided by 2 equals £100. If you got that correct, give yourself a tick. Okay, the next question, and this don't worry about this next question in terms of what happened there, something's jumped. If you got it wrong, sorry, or if the next question is tough, okay, this is something that students shouldn't really do until towards the end of the course. Okay, so this next question was a nice little challenge question to do in class. Okay, let me just find myself some space on this document so we can keep it all on the same page. Okay, there we go. So the question reads, calculate the government's total tax revenue after the imposition of the tax. Now, I'd like you guys just to write this in. Tax revenue is going to be equal to the tax per unit multiplied by quantity traded. Okay, I'll put that onto its own line so it's a little bit easier to see. Okay, now just in terms of this, the important thing here is just to understand it. So if I just give you a nice easy example, if Mars bars paid 10p a unit in tax and they sold one, then Mars would have to give the government 10p. If they sold two, they'd have to give them 20p. If they sold 10, they'd have to give them £1. Tax per unit, 10p multiplied by the quantity. Really nice and easy. But the important thing is, how do you actually work that out? Okay, so I'm just going to remind you of a couple of things. Let me just draw a little diagram here for you, and I'm just going to emphasize this a little bit. Okay, so if you guys remember the difference between the two supply curves, the difference between the two supply curves is the size of the tax. Okay, so that's the tax per unit. So you need to work that out, and then calculate the government's total tax revenue after the imposition of the tax. Well, after the tax, 10 was sold, so that's going to be nice and easy. That one's really easy, and what I've got to work out is tax per unit. So to work that out, okay, what I would get you guys doing is I would get you to count up all these little numbers. Okay, count them up for me. Okay, just very quickly. I'll give you a few seconds. How many did you work out? You should have worked out that there are 10. 10 little boxes, okay, is equal to £20. Okay, so 10 boxes is equal to £20, which means one little box is equal to £2. Okay, one little box is equal to £2. Okay, and now what I want you to do, now you know that one tiny little box is equal to £2. Count up the amount of little boxes between your initial supply curve and the S plus T supply curve. Okay, so count up the gap between them. You can pause this if you want to. We'll count them up. How many did you find? And you should find that there were 9. Okay, so in terms of what we're looking at, that means the tax per unit is going to be 9 times £2 is equal to £18. So it's £18 per unit multiplied by they sold 10, which means the tax revenue for the government is equal to £180. Okay, so if you thought, wow, that would have been quite tough, it's only tough because we would normally do a question like this probably 3-4 months down the line. It's a compliment to you that you're seeing questions like that early and just being able to stretch and challenge us. Okay, so I hope that's been useful, guys, in terms of the little bits that we didn't manage to cover. Okay, thanks everyone.